Hey everybody, I'm back with another movie spoiler review, and I'll be covering the long awaited Aquaman 2, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Once again, directed by James Wan, and trust me, I was kind of looking for the Annabelle hidden doll somewhere, but I never found it. I'm pretty sure somebody will pull it out in the future. Once again, starring Jason Momoa as Aquaman, Patrick Wilson as Orm, Amber Heard, Mara, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II as David Kane, Black Manta, Randall Park as Stephen Shin, Dolph Lundgren as Nereus, Tamar Morris as Tom Curry, Martin Short as the voice of King Fish, and Nicole Kidman as Atlanta. And this will be like the final movie of the whole Zack Snyder universe situation. And yeah, I was gonna go ahead and say it. I actually think this movie is pretty dope. Once again, you'd be shocked because the first movie made like $1 billion and that was really good. But there's only a couple of things I thought was kind of wonky. Certain CGI of like the certain bad guy minions that show up at the tail end of the film, that was kind of shoddy. But I was still waiting on two things. One, because it's based off this movie is based off the story, or at least loosely based off the story in the comics where Aquaman and Mera, their baby was killed in the comics. It was way, I think post-crisis. It was a very, very long time ago, where Aquaman's baby was killed by Black Manta as just him being like a petty bitch. I'm just gonna cut to the chase here with that. No, the baby doesn't die in here, thank God. I think that would be a little bit too much. And I think James Wan knew that. A lot of writers knew that, so they want to make sure they kind of, okay, let's not actually kill this kid. Whether or not this whole Snyder stuff is going to end anyway or not, we can't just end it on a baby killing thing. So, nix that. And so, like, the baby survives, so don't worry about that if you're concerned with that. And of course, the whole Amber Heard situation, her being like, some people from what I heard so far is like did not care for her in this. She seems like just a bad actress. I can see that she wasn't excellent by any stretch of the imagination. She was all right, nothing to write home about. But I can see where people see like, oh yeah, she's got no chemistry at all. And this is Jason Momoa we're talking about, who doesn't have chemistry with this dude. And he, him and crap, I forgot his name, who played Orm, Patrick Wilson, and Yahya Abdul, honestly, like the three best parts of this, like my favorite parts of this entire film. Honestly, they were standouts to me. And it's not very often where I point out about certain audio and musical composition in terms of films, because like I usually don't peep that unless they're like big and stand out ish, like the Superman theme or the Avengers theme, where it's like in your face with it. Black Manta's theme is just reverberates. And every time he's on the scene, that thing, doom, 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 doom. I'm doing a poor version of it, but it's just like, it's just in your face. And perfect example of a menacing composition. Not since something like Vader's kind of theme, where it's like, when he's like steps on a scene, you just feel the presence. And that's what I got from this. And Uh, in terms of like, the whole Polynesian culture, that is just, I love it when that is expressed. It's a shame that Jason Momoa might not be Aquaman anymore in the future, but he really like made Aquaman such an awesome character, and incorporating the whole Polynesian concept into his, it's like it flows pretty well. So I like when they do like the war cry and certain dances and stuff like that. I love it when I see that. God, it's gonna be a shame that we don't get that anymore. Just gonna go, James Gunn might just pivot into making the comic looking, blonde hair Aquaman that we seen years ago. And it's kind of like, that's, I don't know, it's like, I like Jason Momoa's Aquaman. I don't want him to be Lobo, honestly. There's too many other people who can easily be Lobo. Just because he's got the energy for Lobo doesn't mean nobody else can get that same energy. Oh my god, he made Aquaman so cool. And also, what really stood out for me, and I know it's kind of redundant when I say this, but this is the most comic booky movie that I've seen, and I've seen like a lot of it, but it's very few times I actually use the words very comic booky type of film, and it works, and it's not corny because it fits. You got like Black Manta with legit henchmen like you see in like typical comic books. You got legit henchmen with their own little henchman gear. There isn't like clunky CGI mess like Satari or something like that, with weapons and like a secret base. And you got like these like octopod type of mechanical crafts that they use to float in, like swim in water and do all these attacks. I was like, man, this is so comic booky. It's like, I'm loving it. Like, wow. As like, I'm just showing like all the cool bullet points before I get to the story. But man, that was just like really good, man. But yeah. But anyway, now let's go into like the main crux of the story. So, of course, it starts off with narration. Oh, the underwater scenes, a lot of times, they always look so good. I don't care what you say about the whole Avatar, Way of Water, BS. It's like, I love James Wan's depiction of swimming in the water and stuff like that. It's colorful, way better than something from that live action Little Mermaid, definitely. And you get Topo, the octopus you see in like those old Justice League Aquaman type of Super Friends type of thing back in the day. You got like the Topo, and Topo's like, I like seeing Topo. That was really fun. And they got to throw in the fact that he's really good at playing the drums too. It's like, yeah, Topo played the drums, and he's also very good at espionage too. So it's really dope. Anyway, so it opens with Aquaman narrating. He's running. He's the king of Atlantis, ruling with Mera. Oh yeah, I forgot about like the whole like. I was expecting, of course, Amber Heard's. There has been some editing here and there. You can tell in some cases. I think unless you really peeping that and you know how this kind of system works, you probably notice that a lot more than your average person. But I know there's a couple of things here and there with the whole editing process. Of course, at the whole Amber Heard, Johnny Depp court case and everything like that, and the whole rigmarole went on with that, they had to truncate her scenes down a bit. Where you heavily notice it, where in certain shots where she's talking, but in the camera ain't on her talking, is kind of voiceover type of situation. And I was kind of half expecting her to like, because since they can't have a baby die in this kind of narrative, I was kind of half expecting, they probably want to just kill her off. That's why they kind of limited her scenes. Like, they gotta be killing her off. She doesn't die in this here, even though I was kind of half expecting that. Uh, uh, so he and Mira have a baby, Arthur Jr., who shows a bit of, exhibits a bit of, aquakinesis, not aquakinesis, but like telepathy to speak with uh, the fish. And Arthur's struggle with trying to balance out being a parent and ruling Atlantis, and like flopping back and forth from surface to uh, the undersea. And all the while you get show Black Manta, who's working with Shin, who's just wants to see Atlantis, and he's a marine biologist. He wants to see Atlantis. He hears about it in stories and records and stuff like that. He wants to see it. He wants to like be able to like get the word out, and because he's pretty much like an archaeologist but a marine biologist. And so he rescues Black Manta at the end of the first Aquaman movie. And this is like 5 years later. So Aquaman is trying to find, more Atlantean tech so he can rebuild his suit so he can go and fight Aquaman again. But they end up coming across this old frozen lake area that used to be one of the kingdoms that was lost to the seven kingdoms of Atlantis. And Black Manta come across this broken black trident, which once put together, it possessed him, and he's being reached out telepathy via telepathy by this former king of this lost kingdom. What's his name? Cordax, promising him he can get his revenge on Aquaman if he frees him from his frozen prison. So in order to do that, he has to gather up all this orichalcum, which when I hear that word, I can't help but think about the Yu-Gi-Oh series, where one of the storylines, which doesn't stray too far from the Atlantis connection, where Plato tells a story about Atlantis and this orichalcum type of material that has some kind of connection to it. So they kind of like, weaving that pretty well into the whole Atlantis narrative here. So it's pretty much like a volatile substance that Atlantis used to utilize before they collapse into the sea, realizing how dangerous it is to the overall planet itself. So they couldn't destroy it, so they pretty much buried it in like, undersea secret cells around the globe. So Black Manta is, harnessing it to fuel his machines, thanks along with a reluctant Shen, who sees like Black Manta like slowly kind of like losing it a bit, and he's like, I noticed something. It's like he's very comfortable going and calling him by his first name. It's like, I don't know, you got like a super villain that you're working underneath with. It's like, I don't know, sure if he would be like too okay with him calling him by his first name like they're old college buddies or something. That's way too familiar in my case. And it's like either going by Kane or just Black Manta, because it seems like that is way too formal in my opinion. I'm not sure. That's just my opinion. I noticed that. Not many people, I'm not sure who noticed that, but it's like don't let this little pipsqueak call you by your first name. Like you like, yeah, sure, you rescue him. Maybe that's the kind of familiar connection you might have where you're like, okay, you get to call me David. Uh, but I don't know. This feels like kind of weird. Anyway, the next deposit they steal, it's not too far along from and this volatile substance coincides with this recent spike in climate change and everything like that. They weaving that into the whole storyline, which I guess is okay. It fits with the whole narrative in most Aquaman stories where it's like, the sea is hurting, or Atlantis is trying to take over the surface, or climate change. Typically it's one of those three things. Typically, and I wouldn't say it's all the time, but those like usually been like the primary three. But this orichalcum, because it's so volatile, it kind of speeds up the process with the heat and everything like that. And it's a connection with the greenhouse gases. It emits high quantities of greenhouse gases, obviously, which that is terrible. So while that's going on, Aquaman is kind of debating with other chairmen of the whole council of different Atlantean rulers, and there's like a tradition where he notices like the spike, and it's like, okay, we need to reveal ourselves to the surface because they don't know what they're doing as far as how the levels of it hurting, above as well as below sea. If we reveal ourselves and let them know what's up and share our technology, we can do something about it rather than let them be ignorant of it and speed up the downfall. Of course, the other members are not with that because, per tradition, we remain hidden for a reason, because we don't want to get caught up in the surface world's prejudices and wars and all this other stuff. We're primarily like a relatively peaceful civilization, unencumbered by surface world problems. But it's just like, it wouldn't make sense because y'all are pretty much like in like a symbiotic, air, sea, and land have like a symbiotic relationship. What affects one will affect the other in some kind of capacity. But they don't see it that way. So of course Aquaman's kind of frustrated with that situation because he doesn't want to, doesn't want to cause any further issues. He's trying to keep the peace as much as possible to prevent any type of war between surface world and the Atlantean people. That's when there's a breach where Black Manta steals some more deposits. Atlanta and Mira go after him, and this is where I expect like a that's where they kill off Mira here. No, Manta uses his eye beams to severely injure Mira before he makes it escape, because they got this technology where they shoot out hypersonics that affects everybody's equilibrium. This is pretty much like darn near like a one-hit KO kind of situation. Before they dip off, now Mira is like healing in a hyperbolic time chamber or whatever the hell it is. So now they gotta find Black Manta, but nobody knows where it is except one person, Orm, which we kind of expect it to be because that's the whole crux of like the trailers and the premise leading up to this movie, where it's gonna be kind of like a buddy cop film between Orm and Aquaman, which honestly is like my favorite part Honestly, if I have like a favorite part, is just these two is together. You talking about chemistry? These two actors have straight up chemistry. It was so much fun watching these two together. But since Orm found Black Manta before and worked with him, he will probably know where to go. So the problem is, says Orm is in prison at this desert with these sand rock people who just give him enough water to keep him alive, because Atlantean people require water in order to have their power. Kind of playing on that the old, well, not like an old weakness trope of Aquaman, because he's already pretty powerful outside of the water, but prolonged exposure away from the water will result in him getting slightly weaker over time. So you see that with Orm in a little bit, but Mira's dad and Aquaman's mom explained to him that, okay, he is in prison for war crimes, essentially, because in the previous film he killed one of the leaders of a different nation of Atlantis. So they got him in prison. But if they can't just break him out, because that will cause an upheaval between these essentially nations, essentially. So Aquaman has to wear this blue suit, which is reminiscent of a comic stealth suit that Aquaman wore in an old comic. And he works with Topo in order to sneak inside and break out Orm. Of course, Orm still doesn't like Aquaman, doesn't like to be called brother and everything like that. So they end up breaking out, and right as he's get to the edge of the water and he passes out and the water rushes over Orm, you see him get from skinny to buff real fast. It's kind of like Steve Rogers. It's like a skinny, not exaggerated skinny like that, but malnourished. But soon he get some color in him, and it's like he's just ripped to all hell, and he's kicking a bunch of ass. And so they head out. And of course, you get this crazy edit. It's like he had this kind of full-on shaggy beard going on, but now they go to the next scene where they're in this aqua ship heading towards the next location, and he's clean shaven, he's got the same hair he had before in the previous film, and it's like you don't get a scene where he just had a moment to clean himself up, change the clothes. Not need every little scene to be shown, but it's just I don't know, maybe a little something. But Orm explains that he got connections from this hidden pirate cove about Black Manta before, so they got to go there in order to see where anybody got word where he is now, so they can go. So he pretends to have captured Aquaman, so he get close to King Fish, which is pretty much like a godfather of this criminal, cove. And they manage to get the information that they need after a brief fight of where Black Manta be. And they go to this island, which, because of this orichalcum and I guess a radiation it emits or something. I don't think you quantify it as radiation, but it caused the flora and fauna to grow exponentially. It's kind of like they're on Kong Skull Island, essentially. You see this giant butterfly getting eaten by this giant Venus flytrap, and these giant grasshoppers chasing after them after they eating this giant rat. Oh, and there's a funny moment where it's just like he Aquaman convinces, because he making a point about Orm's prejudices against the surface world. Man, like, have you ever had like a cheeseburger and tacos and margaritas, and like, of course, Orm doesn't know any of that stuff. It's like foreign. It's like, you're speaking Greek to him, you know, per se. It's like he doesn't know what this stuff is because he's never been to the surface world, so he doesn't know about certain foods and drinks. And as the conversation went on, he sees this big cockroach, and he's like, "Oh yeah, this is one of Earth's delicacies, really." And it's like, I mean, I'm not mad at it, but because it's funny. But the whole I was in like a, kind of full theater on Friday, and like you hear a bunch of people cringe and get grossed out the fact that you have Orm taking a big ass bite out of a cockroach, and it's like the crunch noise, and he was like, "Oh, this is actually pretty good." And it's like, "Oh God," it was, and just like, Arthur just laughing his ass off. But I'm glad they kind of, that comes full circle in the end, but we'll get to that soon. So they eventually come across Black Manta's secret base. They break in, and this is after Shin, touches the Black Trident.
Phrasing.
And he sees what Black Manta's been seeing, and realize, oh my God, this dude wants to pretty much break the world in his goal to take down Aquaman. And even to hear Orm speak on it earlier that Black Manta is known to be ruthless, but what he's doing is pretty much insane, because he's pretty much holding a gun to the world's head, threatening to pull the trigger without making any type of demand. He's gone nuts. And so once they break in, Shin runs into them and begs for them to take him with them because this dude gone nuts. And of course, because they make a joke about this, because it happens so often in the first film, this sudden explosion happened, and Arthur, grunts like, "Oh, I hate it when that happens." And it's like, yeah, thank you, because like that was kind of annoying. I think James Wan heard the people's jokes about the constant sudden explosions out of no freaking where, and he, I was kind of half expecting that to be a running theme again, but no, this is the one time they actually do it, and he doesn't do it again. But he kind of knew he had to do it at least one more time, given it's the last one. So Orm and Aquaman fight Black Manta, who's a lot stronger now because of the possessed trident. And in the ensuing fight, the place is flooded because, like, thanks to Topo getting the reinforcements of Atlantis to show up, Mirror Seal saves Aquaman from falling debris thanks to Black Manta. And because Orm touched the trident in accident, he sees also what's carrying on, but he's more familiar given his teachings and lineage as a young kid, so he's a little bit more familiar with what's going on. He explains to everybody about the King Cordax being the brother of Aquaman and Orm's father, Atlan, and how crazy the brother went, and how he was ruling, and the huge deposits or orichalcum he's stockpiling, which would have been a declaration of war by the other nations. And so this leads to a fight between Atlan and his brother, and Atlan uses blood magic to seal away his own brother. And it can't be broken. The blood magic can't be broken unless you get the blood of Atlan. But since he's long dead, and it's only to Orm's thought process, it was only him and Aquaman. But everybody starts, getting a light bulb in their head. It's like, no, there is one more. And so Black Manta goes to Amnesty Bay, wounds Aquaman's dad, and kidnaps Arthur Jr. And now Shin is like, okay, this is going way too far. He knew that this guy will hurt this kid in order to break this seal. So he leaves a subtle ping for Aquaman's team to pick up on so they can follow him. So they gather their forces and to go after Black Manta. So this is where the whole CGI BS comes into play with these zombie Atlanteans that lived under Cordex comes attacking Aquaman's forces. And I'm thinking, like, what would have been useful? That freaking kaiju that you was riding years ago, could call them, pretty much, call in a blitz essentially, so you can get to this stuff sooner. But thanks to Shin for stalling some time, he hands this bag over to Black Manta, which is actually a bomb, just to briefly stun Black Manta so he can carry that baby out of there, because it's like there's no way he's with killing a kid. So that's when Aquaman shows up in the nick of time, and Black Manta and Aquaman fight. Mirror gets the baby out of the way, and Manta throws the trident at Mirror. Orm catches it in the nick of time, but now the former king is possessing Orm. So now Black Manta doesn't have the extra power boost anymore. It's all trading over to Orm, and he's fighting it off. And thanks to Aquaman's getting through to him, he lets go of the trident, but not before Orm hits him in the face, causes the blood come out of Aquaman's mouth, hitting on the sacred table. Now it breaks the seal. Aquaman throws the trident, the black trident, at Cordex. He catches it midair, but then Orm passes over Aquaman's trident. He throws that. It goes right through with crazy precision, unrealistic precision. But it goes right through the black trident, destroys it as it impales Cordex, causing, I don't know why Atlan didn't just, you can argue that's his brother. He refused to kill his brother, so the next best thing he felt he needed to do was seal him away. But these guys have no connection like that. So he kills Cordex, which dispels the enchantment and of all his little minions, and his kingdom starts collapsing. Everybody makes their escape, and they thank Orm for his assistance and say, like, we can say, like, hey, you must have died in the whole collapse thing, so that way he can stay hidden but not too far where Aquaman can reach out to him if he needs him. And thanks to their buddy cop moment, Orm understands his brother well. He even calls him brother, which that was going to happen. And he gives Aquaman some words of wisdom, knowing that he actually is like a better king, because he's willing to ask for help even for his greatest enemy. It shows a mark of a great king. And he says, like, if you need any kind of advice, I'm not too far away. which is a nice little moment between these two brothers. And a nice moment because it's like a family film in a way for around time for Christmas. So I hope this movie does very well. And the movie ends with Aquaman just like, you know what, I'm going to reveal myself. I said I got a notice to the UN about us. I'm showing up with some of my forces, even though some of the other people of Atlantis are just shocked by this whole entire thing, just completely disobeyed, and felt like, oh, screw tradition kind of situation. So he reveals himself just like in the comics, where it's like, we're going to be part of the UN as a nation because we reveal ourselves now because the planet is going through some climate change and all those other situations. We can help work with you guys. We just want to see at the table and that kind of thing. And it becomes like a huge news thing. And of course, Jason Momoa being Jason Momoa does this whole mic drop. I'm Aquaman. Boom. Yeah. And it's like that's like, God, this guy is so cool. I love this guy. And then the mid-credit scene, because you got to at least have one more of these, where Orm is somewhere on the surface having like a burger for the first time. And it's like, and he's like enjoying it. It's like, wow, burger and fries is actually pretty solid. And then he sees like a freaking cockroach and put it inside. I know certain areas of the world people eat cockroaches and stuff like that, so not too out this world, but the fact that he put it in his burger and just eats it and everybody just groans like, oh god, it's so gross. But the theater that I was in, people were applauding and cheering because it was a really good movie. It's a really good movie, and I don't know if it'll break 1 billion, but I still hope it still does a worldwide success because it's actually pretty solid, despite certain editing here and there, despite the whole choppiness with the whole Amber Heard situation, despite that swirling around this kind of thing. And some people worry about, will they kill the baby? No, they won't. But hopefully word get out about this movie being a very good film. It is a very good film. Yeah, especially like I said, the three main components that is a highlight for me: Aquaman, Orm, and Black Manta. All three are huge standouts. Very well done. Anyway, that was Aquaman Lost Kingdom. Also, the last wrap up of the whole Snyder DC universe before they move over to James Gunn cinematic universe. And I gotta go to my tier list at some point and rearrange the Lost Kingdom to at least put it under A ranking, because it's actually a pretty solid movie. Because there's no other, I don't know if I put the Flash on there. I think like the Flash, I don't know, I don't want to waste a video making like just moving 2 items on the tier list thing, and that'll be that. I'm just gonna tell you right now, I'll put Aquaman 2 A listing and Flash Flash movie, if I'm being very generous, C, because there's moments I actually enjoyed, but it still wasn't like up to snuff. But I don't know, I don't think anybody expected it to be. But I will see you guys, speaking of the tier listing, I will see you guys in a few minutes as I do 2 separate videos of me covering my favorite video games of 2023 and another video of my favorite movies of 2023. So I'll see you guys soon with that. Take care, and let me know what you think of Aquaman 2. Did you enjoy it? How was your theater experience? All that stuff. See ya.